Hi, Greg Mitchell here. Thanks for joining us again in this series of videos as we introduce you to our exclusive 8 Elements to Success Through People model. The Success Through People model is all about helping you manage people in a way that drives real results for your business. Quality products and services, improve culture, improve staff engagement, higher productivity and profitability. In today's video, we'll take a look at one of the critical aspects of achieving success through people, recruiting right. Okay, so let's talk about recruiting right. First of all, a little story. Some time ago, just after I started my own business, I started to meet with a range of local business owners and managers. I can remember talking to one fellow who was operating a tourism business at the time, had about 30 staff, and they had a bit of turnover over the previous couple of years. So I asked him what they did when there was turnover and he needed to fill a vacant position. He actually said to me, "Well, Greg, we're really lucky." He said, "It seems that every time we have somebody walk out, we have somebody walk into the shop. And if they look okay, we put them on." He actually said that that practice was working for him, so I wished him well and sort of went on my way. It was only a few weeks later that I got a rather panicked phone call from him, and he said, "Greg, for heaven's sake, get up here, we need your help." He said, "We've recruited the wrong person and we need to get them out." So obviously we help them with their short-term needs and we help them improve their recruitment practices. The sad thing is he's not the first and probably won't be the last business owner or manager to make a mistake in terms of recruitment. In fact, research by Golf Recruitment showed that over 90% of business owners surveyed had admitted to making the wrong selection decision at least once. And also research by BRW Australia shows that the cost of recruiting to a vacant position can actually be up to 3.5 times the annual salary for that position. Now, I don't know about your business, but I certainly can't afford to be wasting 3.5 times the annual salary of any of my team. So recruitment's pretty important. It's a hassle, it costs you time, and it costs you real money. So how do you go about recruiting right? Well, it's beyond the scope of this video to go into the detail of exactly what's involved in a thorough professional recruitment process, but there are a few highlights I'd like to give you. First of all, make sure that you start with a well-written, comprehensive and up-to-date position description. This really becomes a foundation stone for an effective recruitment process. Not only does it provide prospective candidates with good information about the role, on which they may or may not choose to apply for the role. If they choose not to apply for the role, then they've saved you time. If they do choose to apply for the role, they've hopefully addressed the criteria within their application, making it easier for you to shortlist candidates. Once you get through that process through to the subsequent stages of selection, interviews and so on, the position description provides a real objective point from which you can consider the suitability of candidates for your role. So a well-written, up-to-date, comprehensive position description is critically important. Okay, so you've got your job description in place. You now need to think about how you're going to attract the best candidates. So there's a lot of web-based job sites available at the moment, and many of them are very good and I would recommend them. That said, sometimes your star candidate may not be browsing the job site, so you have to think about, well, what are other ways that we can put our opportunity before them? So one thing I'd encourage you to do, depending on the nature of the role and so on, is to think about advising others within your professional network about the opportunity. Even your staff, your suppliers, potentially even your customers. Get the word out there that you're recruiting and you're looking for a great candidate. If they know anybody, they'll generally be more than prepared to mention the opportunity to them. I'd also think about things like local newspapers, even putting an advertisement in the shop window if you're a retail premises, contacting local universities, colleges, high schools, again depending on the opportunities. But sometimes you need to think a bit creatively about how you're going to source your candidates. Okay, so let's assume that that goes well and you've got some good applications in. You now need to shortlist and begin to consider those applications. So the shortlisting process, determining who you're going to interview Again, you go back to your job description, you review the applicants' applications, and you consider their suitability for the position in line with the criteria that you've set out in the job description. Again, it becomes quite an objective, systematic process. Before you get to the interviews, make sure that you prepare some questions in advance. Again, make sure that those questions are aligned with the criteria in your job description. I'd also recommend inviting somebody else along to help you with the interview process. Just getting another perspective on the suitability of candidates can be enormously helpful. Okay, so once you've interviewed shortlisted candidates, you should have one or two or maybe even three preferred candidates. What I'd suggest you do at this point is to think about other opportunities to gather information about those candidates. I actually see recruitment very much as like a big jigsaw puzzle. And the more pieces that you have of the jigsaw, the more complete the picture's going to be, and the greater your chances of recruiting right, making the right decision for your business. So what do I mean by other pieces of the puzzle? What are the other opportunities to gather information about candidates? Well, you've got things like skills tests, skills-based tests, the old typing test being an obvious example of that, but there's many others depending on the nature of the role that you could deploy. Psychometric, personality, behavioural type testing I certainly recommend as a good way of distinguishing between preferred candidates and identifying any other issues that you need to consider before engaging that person. Another really important thing I think is referees checks. Now, I'm continually amazed by the number of organisations that don't do them. They are worthwhile. People often say to me, well, Greg, nobody's going to put down a referee that's not going to speak highly of them. Well, you might be surprised. I've actually had a few in time. Depending on the nature of the position, you may also need to do criminal record checks, working with children checks, check their formal qualifications and so on. So again, it's about gathering information, gathering those pieces of the puzzle, making sure that you've got enough pieces to build a pretty good picture of the candidates. Once you've settled on your ideal candidate and they've accepted your offer, congratulations. But the process doesn't quite finish there. Make sure that you continue the professional approach and that you've got a good, thorough onboarding process in place. You need to bring your star candidate up to speed as quickly as possible so that they're adding value to your business immediately. And of course, once you finish recruiting right, be sure to capitalise on that investment by ensuring that you have the other 8 elements to success through people in place and working well. Thanks for watching. If you need any further help or support, check out our website or give us a call. We'd love to hear from you.